2017 has been home to a bunch of platformers inspired by a very special era of games. A Hat in Time, Poi, and Yooka-Laylee have all had their time to shine, and there's this thing called Super Mario Odyssey releasing very soon. Maybe you've heard of it. But these games all have one thing in common. They take cues from the platforming greats of the Nintendo 64. So we're gonna count down the top 9 platformers from Nintendo's rad retro console. Some of these are no-brainers, some might surprise you, and others you might not even remember. But it all starts with Number 9, Space Station Silicon Valley. DMA Design is better known today as Rockstar North. Yes, this cutesy platformer is from the same team that went on to create the blockbuster Grand Theft Auto series. But before players took control of Nico Bellic or Trevor Phillips, they controlled a robot who crash-landed on a space station. More accurately, they controlled the robot's little microchip, which could be used to jack into various animals to complete levels across the station's 4 different environments. Some animals were faster, some were stronger, but you had to use the whole zoo if you wanted to get through this one. Number 8, Spider-Man. Spider-Man is the only licensed game you'll find on this list, and it absolutely earns its place. For the first time, Spidey fans could swing, crawl, and beat up bad guys in an open 3D environment. The comic book vibe is definitely here in spades, too. Each level is an issue of the Spider-Man comic series, with some sweet cover art in the loading screens. And as far as villains, there are oh so many to fight here. If you're a fan of the multiverse Spideys like Spider-Man 2099 or the Scarlet Spider, you'll be happy to know that you can unlock plenty of alternate costumes for the Web Slinger too. Number 7, GOEMON'S Great Adventure. And now we get to talk about our only 2.5D choice. After going full 3D 2 years before, the Mystical Ninja series went back to the X and Y axes with GOEMON'S Great Adventure. But the levels still have much to explore, with multiple paths and even side quests to complete as you make your way from left to right. You can even go on the adventure with a friend in co-op mode. And you might need the help, since the game's day-night cycle brings out faster and tougher enemies once the sun goes down. Number 6, Jet Force Gemini. This is the first game from developer Rare on this list, but you can be sure it's not the last. Jet Force Gemini is part platformer, part shooter, fusing together elements of earlier Rare games like Banjo-Kazooie and GoldenEye. The Gemini team has to take down the evil insectoid Mizar, a mission that involves multiple planets and non-linear levels across the galaxy. Having a trio of heroes on the team also means switching up control and using special powers to breathe underwater or cross lava. And of course, it wouldn't be a platformer shooter hybrid without some multiplayer deathmatches. Number 5, CONKER'S Bad Fur Day. I'm sure you've noticed that this list has been very kid-friendly, but CONKER'S Bad Fur Day is absolutely not that. Rare went a very different direction from its other games here, at least thematically. Sure, it's a platformer at heart, but Conker drinks heavily, pees on fires, and helps bees and buxom flowers get busy. Leaning back on the shooter mechanics of Jet Force Gemini, it also offers a pretty lengthy shooting segment that pokes fun at Saving Private Ryan. And of course, that's just one of many parodies Conker offers. I mean, the final boss is a combination of Alien and Super Mario 64's Bowser fights. Number 4, Banjo-Tooie. It might be weird to talk about the sequel first, but don't worry, we'll get to Banjo-Kazooie soon. The follow-up cranks the imagination of the first game up to 11, with levels like Hailfire Peaks, which is a split between a fire and an icy side, and Cloud Cuckoo Land, a sky level with a bunch of weird floating islands. And while a lot of 3D platformers force you out to a hub world in between levels, Banjo-Tooie's interconnected worlds are still impressive to this day. Sometimes you even have to find those secret passages in order to collect everything. The Bird and Bear also get a huge list of new powers during the journey, not to mention a multiplayer mode featuring all the minigames you'll encounter along the way. Number 3, Donkey Kong 64. Before Banjo-Tooie, Rare brought one of Nintendo's main mascots into 3D with DK64. Along with that came a totally redesigned DK Island and a handful of simply massive levels. Too much for just Donkey Kong to conquer on his own. Fortunately, you also get to control other members of DK's family, Diddy, Tiny, Lanky, and Chunky Kong, and I think we know who the standout is there. And of course, each member of the family has their own set of powers and items to help you collect every delicious banana. But beyond all the big levels and special abilities, Donkey Kong 64 has stayed in our hearts for one very hip reason. Number 2, Banjo-Kazooie. Told you we'd get to it soon. Banjo-Kazooie was Rare's very first platformer on the N64, and it's definitely where the magic started. The Baron Bird's first adventure is so much more than just a series of jumps and collectibles. Levels aren't just about getting from A to B. They're packed with unique characters like Mumbo Jumbo, a shaman who transforms you into some crazy creature or contraption in every level. And the further you go, the more complex the worlds become. The final stage, Click Clock Wood, requires you to rotate the world through spring, summer, fall, and winter to access certain parts of the level. Banjo-Kazooie showed just how elaborate 3D platformers could be. And number 1, Super Mario 64. Before any other game on this list came Super Mario 64. The plumber's first foray into 3D totally changed how we perceive his world. Stars weren't invincibility power-ups anymore, they were the main collectible. And collecting coins wasn't just for a high score, they also filled Mario's health bar. Between Bomb-On Battlefield, Shifting Sandland, and so many other levels, you'd be hard-pressed to find a game with more memorable stages, not to mention a fully explorable Peach's Castle with secrets of its own. Mario 64 paved the way for every 3D platformer to come, just like Super Mario Bros. Did for 2D platformers on the NES. And there you have it, our top N64 platformers of all time. What did you think of our choices? What games would be on your own list? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this look back at older games, consider checking out our History Of series, where we dive into big franchises like Sonic the Hedgehog and Uncharted.